Gewaldic. So we're back in Shirat David, just pulled up just before Mincha from Netanya. Baruch Hashem, crazy drive. Like took more than 3 hours. It's like crazy on the roads. I don't know what's going on. Baruch Hashem. I suppose it's before Mashiach comes, and two Bav is a Mashiach took a day, so it's like a lot of balagan, a lot of manias. But we made it. Baruch Hashem, we made it to davening, and we made it to our home. And thank Hashem, we had a beautiful few days. We have to always be grateful. Now, Tu B'Av is a very special time, and we're learning Torah Mem Zayin in Likutei Moharan. A new Torah, it's very much Masugul, very much the Indian right now, for me personally, and for most people, I think, going through the Ikvas de Mashiach before Mashiach comes. Tu B'Av is already 45 days before Rosh Hashanah, and Baskal's coming out. It was the day where Baruch Hashem, I was okay to meet my B'Shah and be engaged. So it's 25 years since we got engaged in the holy city of Yerushalayim. Baruch Hashem, Chasdei Hashem, and we dedicate the learning to all the Zvugim, Hagonim, all the good soulmates that are out there, and we should be zocheh to, if we listen to this Torah, we'll have Shalom Bayis, because we'll see that by v'choltem v'chol v'savor v'haltem v'chilu, this is the pasuk it's bringing from Yoel base, that this pasuk is then you will eat and be satiated, and you will praise Hashem, the name of Hashem, your Lord, who performed such wondrous deeds. Never again will my people be ashamed. So this is something which, once you get married, then you start to feel this, the all of Panasa. Yeah, we're going to see the solution to the all Panasa. To never be ashamed, to have satiation, to have, it's all totally on one word, one Metzias, one foundation, and that Hashem gave to Am Yisrael, Emes, truth, the Emes. This is Rabbi Nachman's foundation as well. Mamish Sadik Yisod Olam is all about Emes. Aleph, Mem, Taf are planted firmly. They were brought down to this world for us, for our sake. And the emes is the key, that we shouldn't become filled with shame, because he's going to teach us a very deep, very panemius understanding of how to eat, and also to understand this Torah was something which was hard to pinpoint exactly when it was revealed. Like they were talking that it's coming from the Haftorah of Rosh Hashanah Kippur time, but they're not sure exactly. If you look in the Masorah and the whole, it was around 1802. Long time ago, when this Torah was revealed, and there's definitely a concept of tefillin, which is definitely a lesson that the Rabbi Nachman talks about during that time, and we'll see when we learn it that emes, tefillin, they all go together. He says here also, pretty much all the things I just said, but Holy Land as well, Eretz HaKodesh. I was talking from memory, because this Torah, when I learned this from Big Talmid Chacham around 24, maybe longer, 24 years ago, maybe a bit less, 23 years ago, and this Rav, he gave it over very profoundly, so it stayed with me. And just give you all a chizuk. Rav Bouman once said, if you want, Rav Nachum Bouman, you ever heard of him? It's Talmud of Eliyahu Kitov. He was connected to Shlomo Kaleva, but he once said on a shmooze from the Chasam Sofer that if you want to remember Torah, it has to be a momentous occasion. The problem is when people are learning, it's just, it becomes like a kavir, something you do, which Akev is the same Osius, this parsha as a kavir, to fix. Fix it into our heart, fix it into our zman. We have a time to learn. This week we've chofish a little bit, so we're trying the morning, night. I did yesterday's Torah. I did it on the road in Netanya. You have to fix it, but the most important thing is it should be momentous. It should be in such a way that it goes into your neshama. You feel it, you remember it. It's roshem, it's chokek, something Rav Tzadok talks a lot about. It has to make a difference. So the Rav gave it over back in the day. Gave it over in such a way. And the Chasam Sofer was zocher to remember people, Torahs, the Bavitcher Rebbe, the Tzaddikim are able to remember, because everything was a momentous occasion. Everything was important. Everything was this is the Ratzon Hashem right now. This is totally focused, and then so Bez Hashem we'll learn it with that kind of spirit, hopefully. And if we get this Torah right, we shouldn't have problems with panasa, we shouldn't have problems with eating, and as I said, you'll be praising Hashem. You're praising Hashem, you'll definitely be having shalom bayis. So a lot of good things will come out from this Torah. And the most important thing is you'll become more emistic, a more truthful person. Someone who is, says Rabbi Nachman, steeped in taivas achila and desires for food. He uses the word here, gluttony. I don't really like that word, but it's a true word. That someone is just completely involved in taivas achila, like as knowing. I mean, imagine the taivas achila of Rabbi Nachman's time. You know what? Yeah, a bit too much chillin'. He didn't have what's the names in America? Gourmet glat. I don't know. There's all these crazy like chefadika. Just literally gluttonous. Yeah, it's called glat. Glat they meant kosher, but it's, you know, whatever. If you've ever seen a smorgasbord and you've been to one of those kind of simchas, Shem Shmeina, yeah, it's shehu rachok me'emes. What's the problem? The Rabbi Nachman says he's very far from emes. Yeah, there's a famous story, Rabbi Nachman, that he went around Leil Shabbos to the Chassidim to see what, you know, he was very much involved with his Chassidim. We saw from last 3 Torahs, he cared about the way they daven to Hashem, so he gave them a lot of advice to increase their kavanah, increase their avoda. So one of the other things is he went around his Chassidim and Leil Shabbos to see how would they keep Shabbos, how would they shomer Shabbos, and that means not just keeping their halachas, but also how do they run their homes, and they'd peek through the windows to see what the Chassidim were up to. So one Shabbos Tish, he looked through the window and he said to whoever was with him, I don't know, maybe it was Rabbi Nosson or someone of his Chassidim, said to him, it's Peladik, that I see a cow with a strimal on its head. There's a cow sitting at that table with a strimal on its head, you know, it's a big furry hat. What's he doing? So obviously what he meant is the guy was so into eating the cow, the meat that he was eating that night, that it looked like he'd turned into one. So it's like a disappointment. Basically, don't get too involved with the eating because it takes you away from truth. Because what happens is knowing the judgments start to rest on that person. Dalus. This is the important part, and this is a sign of poverty. Yeah, which we all know nowadays. We can't blame it that we don't have incomes or there's no opportunities. Maybe that's starting to happen also with AI and who knows what's going on. But on a certain level, it's also because the cost of living, and this was prophesied in the Gemara, and we know that at the end of days that things are going to be yoker and people won't have money in their pocket. You could say that's because everything's online. I don't know. However you explain the Gemara, yeah. The point is that there's a certain poverty. Now my Rebbe always talks about the real poverty is with das. Told the Rebbe. He always says that the poverty is not in ashiris and money, it's actually the das, the knowledge. We have ashiris, we have wealth, but it's an asoyan because we have less das, less awareness of Hashem, which is really the most important kind of ashiris. What happens because of this overeating? He comes to getting shamed and embarrassments. It's a pasuk and in the Gemara Brachos talks about this, if you remember in the Gemara. There's Psalms 12:9, Tehillim 12:9. Kurum, which is exalted, is degraded by the sons of man. Once a person has come onto human beings, once he comes to Shnora, Shem Shmeinu, I don't like that language, but that's what people call it. Once he comes asking for help, then it brings his face to change, like a korum. It's a Gemara in Brachos, Daf Vav, Amid Beis. He starts to change colors. The shaming experience changes colors in his face. And the korum is a multicolored bird that changes colors in the sun. It's Gemara in Brachos. Person's faces sometimes change the colors. This happens, for example, when he is degraded, embarrassed, as a result, loses prestige, falling the high level. Rom. He'd achieved certain levels, yeah? You know, each in their own reality. You know, for me it was, back in the day, I was a midnight rabbi. It was a level. I used to be up all night with Bachurim, and then I'd go to a morning kollel with the Kollel Rebbe from 4 till 7, and then daven with the Kollel. Sometimes I went to daven with Simai Zilberg and finished davening, or by him, by be like 12 at midday, go run to his kollel, have a few hours of learning, then have lunch, and then like after 2 for when lunch was 11 or something minimal, and then head home, try to be a father for 5 minutes, which I wasn't very good at, even those 5 minutes, and then fall asleep for a few hours because I hadn't slept all night, and then go out again for Mincha Marev, and I don't think I'd done Mincha, but earlier Mincha, and then done Marev, and then back into this whole all-night experience, and this was for years. So it was Madregas, Miram, I was like holding, like running around the streets of Yerushalayim, saving the shamas and learning with Tzaddikim, but at the same time, Hashem changed things, came along, made off with all the wealth of the yeshivas. So I didn't have the money that they could pay me, and there was ways that it got undone slowly, and also the Bochrim changed. They weren't having nisyonis with DVD or laptops. They're having nisyonis with iPhones, and it became a different reality. So the Minna Rabbi, now they need to go online. That's where the battle is. So that's why I've been doing. But the point was, and that's a whole different story. A whole different assignment. Learning Ben Ish Chai and Tanya with Bochum in the middle of the night is a whole different thing than being online. And being online is, walking the streets of Yerushalayim. It's like Hashem works it out. But the point is, what happens when you get pulled down from somewhat your imagination of greatness? Then you have to come on to people to help you. And what happens when you need help? You get shamed. So that poverty, that dalus, and where did it all stem from? Not eating with emes. Because we're going to understand that what does it mean to the tithe as a chila? The real Nakuda, and Rav Tzadok brings the same Nakuda, because Rav Tzadok and Rav Nachman are very connected, and we'll learn Rav Tzadok Bez Hashem next. The main Nakuda, the main program is an emes. Because if you eat what you really need to eat to be sever, that's the Nakuda, that's the pasuk. Chalta v'savor. This week's parsha, Chalta v'savata v'rachta. I've been learning this Likutei Moharan from Aleph for almost 2 years now. And the Hashkacha Pratis and Seiva, I'm in Mem Zayin, and Likutei Moharan and Tanya, one Chavrusan, and started 2 different seders, and I kept them going, both Likutei Moharan and Tanya, both holding in the same chapter, and both are Hashkacha Pratis Elyon. The Parsha, this week's Akev, all the Hilchos Brachos, all the Inyan of Sudas, all the Inyan of Kedushas Achila. This is the Zman, this is the time where we have to Parshas Akev to get the chizuk and eating properly. It's the perfect achana for Rosh Hashanah, for Yom Kippur, Sukkot. V'da mishu mishabet tavus achila. And no, those that break tavus achila, says Rabbi Nachman Vaita, HaKadosh Baruch Hu osa al yado mosin. This is now a whole new level. This is the level of tzaddikim. But we can learn about it a little bit, because even as I said, I had a little bechina where I was like hanging around tzaddikim and living like I was a tzaddik, but you start to see most of them. I had very little panasa back then, way less than I've ever had. Because you're working for yeshivas and kolalim, it's low money. But what does Hashem do? Most of them does miracles for you. But the Nakuda, says Rabbi Nachman, it's because they broke the Taivas Achila. That's the Nakuda. It's not just the big learnings and davenings and being charity or whatever. It's the personal truth you have with yourself. No one else knows this. Maybe your wife a little bit, because she sees you eating a bit too much or whatever. Most people won't know. The only person might know is your soulmate. But the whole thing is to break the Taivas Achila. Break this desire to be overeating. Ki Amar Chachamim Zechonu L'Bracha Kesiv Asher Lo Yisa Fanim. That Hashem won't lift up his panim, his fanim, his countenance, because we all need the countenance to shine at us. We all need this. So that he says this from the Chachamim, that we have to understand. The Chacham understood the countenance of Hashem is that yashus, that light, that revelation, that truth that you need to live with. Yiso Hashem panav elecha, that Hashem will bestow His countenance upon you. Amro Kodesh Baruch Hu, Eich lo esa lahem ponim. He says here, the Holy One said, how can I favor them? Ani amati achaltem v'savaltem v'rachta. This week's parsha, mamish. And he said to them, I will eat and I will be satiated and you will get blessed from it. So he says, Hey magdachtim al atzmam v'kazayas v'kabeitza. And this is the very halachic reality, that they were medakdek, they were strict upon themselves to only eat a kazayas and a beitza, which means there's shiurim of how much you should eat, which is also learned out from this week's parsha. Yeah, Eretz Chalav Devash. But before that, it says Zayis. It's in the whole pasuk. We have a chumash here from memory. Yeah, chumash. It says Eretz twice in that pasuk, but in the first Eretz it says Zayis. So the seder is the Chita Sa'ira and then Zayis. Yeah. So that's one of the Sedarim, the Seders of Kedima and Brochas, Hilchas Brochas, and Zayis is where you learn out Kuzayis, yeah, like a Zayis. That's the Shir of Achila. How much is that? Like a matchbox? That's what I think the poskim say. Maybe the Zaytim from back in the day, and we're sitting in Zayit right now, but the Zaytim back in the day were bigger, were more shepherdic, so maybe they had bigger shiurim. Their body could absorb more food and elevate more food, and we're in the end of days, so our little tiny olives are pretty small. But the point is, the poskim say it's usually a matchbox size. You fill up matchbox, and a bear is probably double the size, yeah, of a zayat. That's what I remember from Hilchas Brachos. But the point is, that's a very minimal amount of eating. Now, bells, they have a chumrah to eat a lot of mazonas, for example. They have some different shir of how they work out zayas. And a bear, like you have Chaim Noah, you have Chazanish, different shirurim. So theirs is a lot. So if you would watch a bells that eat cake to be Mekayim Alamichias, a lot of mazonas, which would explain they're a bit bigger. Yeah? I mean, the Rebbe, he's a tzaddik, so you can't say that about him. But I'm saying the Hasidim, like I used to daven there for years, so they definitely, and forgive me. Yeah, Gesundheit. I had discussed to learn with Dayan and bells for many years, and we had a chavrusa, and it was actually one of the things we learned for many years was Hilchas Brachos. And I was learning from a posek, so Dayan, so he was giving me not just the Mishnah Berurah, but also the Pesach Halacha. But then the Kiddush is, and we learned Hilchas Shabbos, that was Peladik as well. But I was around bells a lot, and as I said, they have big shiurim. They're machmeh on the shiurim. So, but either way, whatever the shiur is, yeah, it's a match for whatever. But the point is, don't eat more than you need. That's like if you learn the Mishnah Torah and the Rambam, it's very important that we realize that eating is the cause of most illnesses, especially nowadays. If you learn Hilchos Deos, which I'm learning right now with Chavrusa, we're holding right now in this sugya mamish. And he says there in the Rambam that you shouldn't eat anything. One of the ways of Hagas or Odom, where a person should be, should not eat food that's going to damage him. That means anything like all the sugary stuff, all this, it's really, really important to make sure. And we don't need that food. That food, as we were learning Min HaShamayim also in Likutei Halachos, because everything's connecting up, that was yesterday, we're learning about the Achila and the Pasolis, and the body is like a perfectly worked out chemistry lab. And if you overload it with poisons and toxins and things that are not good, it's going to mess up the whole functioning of the body. So if we want to have good health and be safe from all these diseases that people unfortunately are talking about, instead of going to doctors and checking ourselves up every 5 minutes, the best prevention is the cure. So just eat properly, eat healthy, eat as much organic and much real food that you can with less and less chemical toxins and poisons that unfortunately are rampant, and especially from what I hear in America, because there's much less protection there for some reason. There maybe RFK is doing something about it. I don't know, but the point is that we have to ourselves be Emmet and look at the food that we're eating. It's, with Tzaddikim, they have food nutritionists. They speak to people who can guide them how to eat. When I was a gabbai, or I don't like calling myself that. When I was a manager for the tour for Shalom Morish Shlita, so one of the things I had to make sure everyone got. What's the word? There's a word in business when you're giving someone information. I forgot it. I had to send them the latest. Before we'd have the meals, they had to have a menu from Ravosh, yeah, and that menu would make a big difference. And because he wouldn't sleep much when his schedule, we were traveling a lot, we were dealing with thousands of people. So when he ate, he had to get the chizuk he needed for this next avoda. So by him, his menu was no meats. I think meat's very healthy, but he had a thing, some kedusha thing with meats. Maybe had to be only certain shchita by only certain people. I don't know what his inyan was meat, but on the tour he never ate meat. and it was always fish, and it was always nuts and rice, and like as healthy as it could be. His diet was very, very specific, and Baruch Hashem, we always had hosts who would honor him that, and I had the merit to eat with him, so I was constantly eating healthy food when I was on tour with him. But you see, the tzaddikim are very careful what they eat and the standard and quality of it, and then you'll be satiated, and then you're blessed because you'll be healthy. The kedusha. Now this is all about being medactic to eat only what you need to eat, and the way Rabbi Nachman says Al Pi Halacha is kazaya and be'er, because Hashem gave us the shiurim that we should hold by. Now most people, as I said, are not doing this. Most people are overeating. Yeah, that's one of the big problems of our generation. It's in the sign of Ashiris. So the Rabbi Nachman is coming to give us the eitzes, and as I said, I don't think in his time the Nesiot were so much because they didn't have much. So it's interesting, he gave this Torah, I feel like you're talking to us right now, really. He's preparing, because what's a guy going to do? Eat a bit more black bread and a bit more water? What do they have? Yeah. V'nimsa.
We're always taught those shiur were just to get us to the threshold for bracha achrona, right?
Yeah.
But this is totally different way of looking at the opposite.
It's about being emistic with your eating. Like we could go on, and there's so many stories of tzaddikim. Just in this line, and we'll end one more story that explains this perfectly. He says that, remember, this is all about bringing the or we shouldn't forget the main Likutei here, that Yisa Hashem panav elecha, the Birkas Kohanim, that Hashem's countenance should shine on us. We want to have the Shekhinah with us. We want to have the divine compassion. We want to mitigate the judgments. We want to have rachamim. We want to have a good life. So on the pnimius level, this is by eating carefully. Creates this true reality. And he said already, if not, you're going to get shamed. We don't want to get shamed. Nimsa shenasias panim hu ayidei shibur taivas achila. We see then that divine favor, results from what? Breaking desire for achila. So we'll get into it a bit more next time. He actually gives the amounts in this parish underneath. That an egg is 60 grams, kazayas is 30 grams, and so there's many makoiris on this, of Birkas Hamazon, Hilkus Brochus, a lot of this, and we can go into this. But the point is, by being satisfied with an olive-side piece of bread, like a matchbox size, one is breaking desire for a full meal, one blesses Hashem, Hashem blesses him and shows him favor. Conversely, a person who succumbs to desire for food serves Hashem in an aspect of judgment and exactingness, because you are only bless Hashem when it's due. Thus Rabbi Nachman teaches that becoming steeped in gluttony causes one to be set by not good things, judgments. So just to end off with a story, the Oyev Yisrael, they say he was very big. The Oyev Yisrael, big tzaddik, buried next to the Baal Shem Tov, one of the big tzaddikim. I think he's a tzaddik. Is it him or the Kaddish Levi? The Kaddish Levi says that Tu B'Av, which is now tonight, we shouldn't forget, we already can start seeing Kasiv Chasim Tova, because it's now Menachem Av is Rosh Tevis Or Baruch. Now we're in the place of Baruch. So Oyev Yisrael was someone who also, he understood it. When he looked at the Zmanim, he looked at the Torah, you see it's like you learn in Sefer, it's Giluim, it's revelations. He was also a Dayan, he was a busy, as a Rav, he was a big person. I think he was a Rav of a huge Kehillah, but the point of this story was that he was very big. Big, physically, very big. And when he came for Shabbos, the Kaddish Levi had built up a big story about this tzaddik, that there's a tzaddik coming for Shabbos, and everyone needs to be prepared. We're going to have a tish with him, and etc. etc. Anyway, so he came to Shabbos, and the Chassidim were surprised to see how big he was, and they didn't have WhatsApp to be able to look at what's his nas and all this stuff. They didn't have the local Chassidish news. So he comes walking in his big Rebbe, and throughout the Shabbos, he davens with Kavanah, they see that. But then he sits down at the Sudas and he's just eating. And at the Tish, he's eating. And throughout the whole Shabbos, he's just eating. And the Chassidim by the end are like, this is like the opposite of their Rebbe. The Rebbe, the Kaddish Levi, is in Alomus, in high worlds, he's not sitting eating, he's dancing with a Slavus, he's like, what's this Rebbe? He just eats the whole Shabbos. So when he left, the Chassidim were like, look, Rebbe, we didn't really understand why you hold of him like this. He's just huge, eating away, all covered to him, but we just don't understand it. So he said there wasn't anything he ate that he shouldn't have eaten, and there wasn't a word that came out of his mouth that shouldn't have been said. Everything was emes, everything was exact. And that was his avoda. Now, do I understand what that means? No, because I'm, not a tzaddik. But what it means is that, at least from the tzaddikim, we can understand that it's one is very individual, because some tzaddikim are eating a lot, some tzaddikim are eating very little. It's not like, it's like same with Shmir Saloshin. Chavetz Chaim apparently spoke a lot. It's not that to be Shomer Loshin, you don't speak. To be Shomer your Taivat Achila, you don't eat. Who says? You just eat what you need to eat. So he knew that the sotas and the neshamas and the petikunim and all the different things that he was doing with the Achila, Kedushas Achila, that was exactly what he needed to eat. So to us, it a lot. To him, it was avodas Hashem. So this is why, one, we can't judge anyone else. But secondly, what we understand is that we have to work on being more emistic. This is what Rabbi Nachman is teaching us. More emistic, more truthful with how we eat, how we speak, how we live. And it's a very personal thing. No one else really knows. It's between you and your plate, literally. And maybe, as I said, maybe your wife knows a little bit, but that's part of why she's an Eza Connector, to make sure we're on the right path with health and wellness, because they do mashkiach us a lot on those kind of things. And that's one of the gifts we have to thank Hashem. We have Eishes Chal to help us to eat with Kedusha, to eat, heilige Jewish essence, holy Jewish food, not to just be eating rubbish. And I have to thank Hashem, today as I was driving back this 3-hour drive. So, you're driving along, there was a few sweets that someone had given us, so we were sharing them out, and rubbish, and it wasn't doing nothing. When one of my sons fell asleep after eating a few of the sweets, it doesn't do anything for you. And then my wife pulled out her homemade biscuits, we ate them, I felt chiyas, I felt energy. Because the wife puts in energy into our food. We have to thank Hashem for it. And Bez Hashem, if we eat with satiation, we'll be blessed. And that's this week's bracha. There's a lot of brachas right now. It's 2 Ba'avs, Rosh Hashanah, a lot of preparation for the Zman, for the new Tafshin Pei Zayin brachas. It's all coming down now from this night and day onwards. And we should prepare appropriately and be Zokah to Kasiva, Chasima, Tova, and a happy 2 Ba'av.
Amen.